Plaintiff Brittany Orozco met the defendant at work, but says she didn't realize how crazy she was until after they rented an apartment together. Brittany claims the defendant not only assaulted her when she was pregnant, but she also tried to attack her with 10 kitchen knives. She's suing for stolen property, rent, and a gas bill. Defendant Robin Hartley says Brittany found out she was pregnant a week after they moved in together, and as a result, she totally changed. Robin insists Brittany was the one who attacked her, and then she falsely accused her son of theft. Robin says if she owes anything at all, she owes it to the landlord, not Brittany.
Start with you.
Okay, so I met Robin in 2010. We were both servers, and we became mutual friends.
Servers where?
IHOP.
Okay.
In June of 2013, we signed a lease together, agreeing to pay half of the rent that was $860. Now, I had multiple problems with Robin, mostly with unpaid bills and rent, often being late and things like that. Now, in October of 2013, shortly after, me and her had an altercation whenever I was pregnant. She was drunk, as always, and she pushed me into a kitchen table. Mind you, like I said, I was 5 months pregnant, and out of reaction, I hit her in the face. My husband stepped between us. She bit him, leaving a mark on him for months, trying to attack me still, not caring that I was pregnant.
What was all this from?
Because she was telling her married boyfriend that personal business that I told her she should not be telling people. And obviously she got mad about it because she thought that that was her spouse, whatever the situation might have been. Now, that was whenever she attacked me after I turned my back to her. That was not the only altercation that we had. Another being right before I moved out. We argued about kitchen pans that she knew was not hers. She was drunk once again, and she was trying to cause a fight, I do believe. So on purpose, she basically was, trying to get me to fight back with her whenever I would try to just walk away from her. And I turned my back to her once again. She walked up to me like a horror movie with knives like this, at least 10 of them, acting like she was gonna stab me. So I laughed at her and I was like, what are you gonna do with those? And she just proceeded on what she was doing. Obviously, we didn't get along
Which was
very
packing
well.
those knives, Your Honor.
Pardon
I was
me?
wrapping them in a cloth.
What does that have to do with you trying to assault me with them?
I never tried to assault you.
She's lying. Me and her had an altercation whenever I was pregnant. She was drunk, as always, and she pushed me into a kitchen table. Mind you, like I said, I was 5 months pregnant, and out of reaction, I hit her in the face. My husband stepped between us. She bit him, leaving a mark on him for months.
Plaintiff Brittany Orozco rented an apartment with the defendant, and she claims while living together, the defendant assaulted her when she was pregnant.
You want to tell me about living with her? What was it like?
Sorry I was not the partier that she expected me to be because I was pregnant. She often...
Let her finish, ma'am.
Okay, sorry.
You tell me what it was like.
So, Your Honor, when we moved in together, she knew that I had a 15-year-old son. And a week after we moved in, she found out she was pregnant. So the person that I knew became something that I no longer knew nor wanted to. And, I'm much older than her.
She was having mood swings or something?
Oh, yeah, of
What
course.
happened?
I mean,
Okay.
she was crazy, okay? The stories her versions, I'm just in awe. Like, really, I hope you don't live in that world. The truth of the matter is when we had this birthday party for her husband, well, she had the birthday party. I come home from work, nothing was really prepared. People were starting to come in. I jump right in, no problem, start cooking and help decorating, making things come together nice for her husband, which is my best friend, whom I played matchmaker because, she should have just stayed in that abusive relationship she was in.
You know nothing about that.
So later on that evening, outside, we're outside having a great time, and she comes out, starts bad-mouthing my son. And I'm like, look, stop, enough is enough. Now's not the time or the place, She actually, I believe, had been feelings harboring for months because she has in her mind that my son or me stole a ring from her. Well, she goes in through the kitchen and her husband and then me. And the next thing I know, she screams over, "What you push me for?"
She's lying. She is lying.
Let her finish.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Before I could react in any kind of way, she was continuously swinging on me. Thank God her husband was in between us. But at that point, Your Honor, as sad as it is to say, I did start swinging back, but her husband was in between us. And at one point, I was so infuriated, I did bite him to try to get to her. But when I did, that snapped me back into reality. And that's when her husband ran out the house and took off, and I went running after him to make sure that he got back.
That's not true. You were still trying to attack me after you bit him.
Hey, I was wondering if you wanted to produce a show, Housewives of IHOP.
Pretty good idea. It's a pretty good idea. Let's get to the rent you're suing her for and the gas
Okay,
bill.
so as far as the ring is concerned, the ring was on my nightstand. Like she said,
This
that
is
was
stolen
correct.
property you're suing for?
Yes, and I do honestly believe in my heart that her or her son took the ring because no one was there. This, mind you, this was August of 2013, shortly after we moved in together. Yes, I did have a problem with her son because he was out of control and she had no discipline for him whatsoever. Back to the ring story. I know that he took it. If it wasn't him, then it was her, and I do believe that she should be held responsible if it was him, because obviously he's a minor. Now I have a printout to show you the ring, a picture of the wedding ring, and also the value of the ring. If you'd like to see those, I can give those to you here.
I'll look at them, but that's not how you prove a case, ma'am.
If something comes up missing in your home and there's only 4 people that live there, 2 being who the ring belongs to, what would you assume?
It's one of the 4.
And
I have no idea
your
which
husband
one. And I
lost
have
it. It
no
does
idea.
not
walk
afraid
away.
Go
of
ahead,
you
ma'am.
to
What
tell
else
you the
you want to
truth.
sue for? You can't sue or accuse people of a crime when you say it was either one or the other. That's not enough preponderance of evidence to succeed in a lawsuit. You can't say either or. You have to have very specific knowledge, evidence, or direct observation that it was one person or the other. You can't sue one person and say it was either her or one of the other 4 people who were there. That shouldn't even make sense to you.
But it does.
Okay, but
Imagine that.
the 2 of the 4 people were me and my husband. Would we steal our own ring,
Your
or would
husband
we?
might, I don't know, your husband might be a dope fiend to steal your ring
This
and
is the
sell it.
dope fiend.
Now, don't
This is
start
the
with
dope
me.
fiend over
I ain't
here,
none of her.
okay?
Don't start with me. I don't know nothing about your husband. He might have a woman out there he need to take care of. He steal your ring, go sell it, go pawn it, and give it to his woman. Now, don't start that. Talking about what your husband do. What your husband would do. I don't know what your husband would do.
We argued about kitchen pans that she knew was not hers. She was drunk once again, and she was trying to cause a fight, I do believe. And I turned my back to her once again. She walked up to me like a horror movie with knives like this, at least 10 of them, acting like she was gonna stab me.
Plaintiff Brittany Orozco rented an apartment with the defendant, and she claims while living together, the defendant assaulted her when she was pregnant.
Let's get back to this rent.
Right, okay.
Rent and gas. How does she owe for that?
So she owes back rent that she did not pay
Okay. For what months?
for, I believe it was the month of June, because I received this collection notice in September stating that there was $53 of past due rent, which I paid all of my rent on time and very consistently, always in full. Now I have a printout also of the resident ledger that shows you I've highlighted every payment that I have made. Every other one is from her. If you'd like to see, I can show you
Yes, let's
those.
see it. And you all paid the rent directly to the landlord
Yes, we did.
individually?
Yes.
Individually.
And you all signed the lease together, or both of you?
Yes, we
That's
did.
correct.
And this is your evidence of your payments.
Yes. Her payments are also on there.
Ma'am, what do you say?
Your Honor, as she already stated, we both paid individually to the rental office. Yes, I paid, except for the last month. I do owe the rental agency my last month's rent and those late fees. I may have been late, but I always paid my part and the late fees.
That's why
Except for
we're
what
here,
you're
because
saying you owe now.
Pardon me?
Except for what you are saying you owe now. You
That's
did
correct.
just say you owe.
Absolutely.
Okay, you've always paid with the exception
With
of
the
this
exception of the
time.
last month, Your Honor. Yes,
All
sir.
right. The problem is that they're holding her liable as well, which is typically the case when two people sign on to a contract. Either you can go after one or the other or both.
Well, I do have something stating here from a text from her. It says, while you are calling my husband, why don't you call Carrollton Village and pay the money that you owe? That I owe them, not her. I don't owe her, I owe them.
Okay.
But this
Do you
is
know how
on my
much?
record.
Pardon me?
Do you know how much?
I would imagine about $525.
Okay. Imagine.
Well, there's
She
also
says
a pool
either or is why I should win, Judge. And she said, Judge, I should win based on my imagination. I imagine.
It's because she had taken a pool key, and that was a $50 deposit.
Okay, well, let's go back. You at least imagine you should pay the
For
landlord
sure.
$525.
For sure.
All right. And she's alleging that the rent is $553 that you owe her by way of failing to pay the landlord. Gas bill?
Yes, there's a $428 gas bill that was past due from the months of March to, I believe it was May or June, that she did not pay. She was to pay half of.
Okay. Ma'am?
Well, Your Honor, I have an electric bill here in the amount of $550. Her husband and I, we called it a wash, basically.
That's a lie because the bill is my name. And
Okay.
I'm sure he never said that to her.
All right. Let's take a look. She's right, ma'am. Bill's in her name. And she didn't tell you it's a wash.
Well, Your Honor, that's because at one point, her and I were supposed to be taking care of the bills, and after a few months, she no longer posted the bills and just was telling me what I owed her. I had issues
That is
with
not
that.
true. That is
so
not
I
true.
went to her husband and said, look, this is not working out. I can't see none of the bills. She's
That's not
telling me
true.
what I'm supposed to just give her. I'd like to see it. I feel like I just paid this, such and such. He started putting the bills on the refrigerator, and the ones that we paid on the top. A few months of that went very well. Once she
Very well,
stepped
that's why
back
I have an
in,
unpaid gas bill.
once she stepped back in, those bills disappeared off of the refrigerator. And again, she was dictating to me how much I was going to pay. And I asked for her to show it to me. And again, it was very intense between us. So it was in my best interest for me not to discuss things that I felt like I would get agitated over.
Well, it was in your best interest to pay that bill, though.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
just like it was in your best interest to pay this rent, ma'am, your defense to this is you owe the landlord. But if you heard me earlier, you know that the law is that when you sign on together, you're joint
Yes, sir.
and severally liable. So they're holding her accountable for your share of the rent.
Plaintiff Brittany Orozco rented an apartment with the defendant, and she claims while living together, the defendant assaulted her when she was pregnant.
So I'm going to grant her the judgment so she can pay your share of the rent with this judgment she's receiving. And secondly, with the gas, the agreement was between the two of you. Whatever her husband told you was irrelevant. You might want to sue him as a result of giving you misleading information. But today I have to grant her judgment. Ma'am, with the stolen property, I can't hold her accountable for something where you can't specify exactly who you believe did it. I can't hold anybody liable for speculation. Have a good day. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Goodbye.
Really. I have nothing to say because she's just pathetic. If anybody affiliates with her, they're embarrassing themselves.
I'll pray for your daughter.
Don't bring my daughter into it because your son's the dysfunctional one.
He reminds you of you, doesn't he?
No, not at all.